Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have Ben and Dan here from Toxic Games. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, good, thank you, really good.
Yeah, nice. That game looked really nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm about to be ashamed if I said anything else. I was like, well, that looked bad. No, but Q.U.B.E is the game we're looking at today. I think we've got some footage we're going to take a look at, but if you can tell us a little bit about the game, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So Q.U.B.E is the sequel to Q.U.B.E, which came out in 2012, obviously, and it's a sequel in many kind of different ways, but it's an absolutely standalone story. So we're developing the canon of what Q.U.B.E is and kind of developing that world a little bit more with the sequel. So in Q.U.B.E you take on the role of an unassuming character called Amelia Cross, who's an archaeologist. She's awoken on an alien planet via a crash escape pod, and she doesn't know how she's got there. On this alien planet, there are all these monolithic structures made out of Q-based material, which is the same environment that you found yourself in the first game. In the first game, you were on this Q.U.B.E vessel that was heading towards Earth, and you were tasked to destroying it, so it didn't collide with the Earth. And then after that, it was very mysterious of what actually happened. So we're kind of continuing that mysterious vibe with this game. So it's a first-person puzzle game. And in Q.U.B.E 2, what you can do, as you can see, is you have these three abilities. You have a blue ability, a green ability, and a red ability, and you place these cube blocks into the game world to solve puzzles in order to progress. And your goal is to find out what's going on. You are in contact with another survivor in a similar situation who fills you in with some information about what's going on, and you have to try and find a way to get back home.
Awesome, man. So you said, obviously, it's Q.U.B.E 2, it's a sequel. How was the reception to the first game?
Yeah, it was really well received. So it started off as a student project in 2010. We received investment from Indie Fund and spent a year developing that game. And came out 2012. We were able to pay back that investment within 4 days and generated quite a big fan base from that. And then produced the director's cut version, which came out in 2014, 2015. And it's kind of gone on from there, really. So it's been pretty good. Trying to tap into that fan base now with this one. So really excited about that.
Yeah, Q.U.B.E's available on pretty much every platform since last generation. Yeah. So it's on Xbox 360, PS3, Wii U, Xbox One, PS4. So we have quite and obviously Steam PC as well. So there's a lot of people out there that we get a lot of kind of mail that people asking about Q.U.B.E 2, and we've been quite quiet about it. It's kind of announced, but we've been showcasing a little bit. We're showcasing obviously this week at Rezzed, which is really exciting. But we're kind of like now about to kind of spill the beans, I guess. So
nice. Well, please spill.
Yeah.
What has the process been going into? Like you said, this was a student project to begin with. Like, has this ramped up in terms of the production a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, scale of the game is better. We've transitioned from Unreal UDK and Unreal Engine 3, which we use both those engines for Q.U.B.E 1. Moving into Unreal Engine 4 has really allowed us to really elevate the visual quality of the game, and that brings an awful lot of challenges as well. We had to think about expanding the team, increasing the kind of size of the team. I think there's only 3 of you in the first game, and it's more narrative driven, so there's quite a strong in-depth narrative. We've developed the mechanics on the game, so they're much more involved, and with that there's more complexity in how the player can approach problems, and more possibilities of how they solve kind of the puzzles that they're kind of facing. So developing a sequel, we're always trying to think about, well, what if we could go back to Q.U.B.E 1, what would we have done now? And big kind of questions like, well, we wanted multiple environments. The environment that we're showing here today is actually quite similar to the first Q.U.B.E, but there are several very different environments, internal and external, within the game. It's fully voiced, so we've got voiceover all the way through the title, and we've got 3 characters that you kind of communicate with, and the protagonist is kind of voiced. And we also wanted to kind of, in Q.U.B.E 1, you'd go into a puzzle space and it would have the mechanics within the world. So within the white block structure, you'd have a green block and then a red block, and you'd have to, like a Rubik's Cube, you'd try and manipulate the environment and work out the sequence in order to solve that puzzle. But there's only one answer to that, and there's only one way of approaching that answer, where it is in Cube 2 by giving the player the ability to place those cube blocks into the world and then manipulate with them. They have more opportunity to experiment, and hopefully they'll feel smarter when they solve those puzzles as well, because they've been the driving force of that exploration within that space.
Oh, nice, because that generally is the mark of a very good puzzle game, one where you feel like you've figured out the solution yourself rather than gone, oh, okay, I get what the designer had done here, I'd put this on this and do this and this. What was the process like making like that? Like, that sounds like it's a very different experience in terms of giving the player that sort of feeling.
Yeah, so the way Q.U.B.E. was developed was Dave Hall, the creative director on the project, whilst people on the team working on different projects. He kind of was in this like little bubble, like just like kind of like building just puzzle rooms, like, and just experimenting with how you can play around with these new mechanics. And so, I mean, how long has...
You spent about 2 years on it, like,
just playing around while Q.U.B.E. Director's Cut was going out there in different, places that we're pushing the game out to different places. And so when we really started production, when I came on board and to the project, there was just this whole game of puzzle rooms, but there's no context for that kind of situation. So he just spent a long time just purely focusing on the balancing of this new way of approaching what was Cube 1, and so the gameplay was so rich to start off with, and then we thought, well, what can this actually be? What world will the player actually explore? What are they engaging with? How can we make a story about coloured cubes? Which is a bit interesting, obviously, and we really wanted to push the science fiction vibe. It's a little bit. It's 2001, I guess, in places, and the kind of approach very mysterious, kind of like we really wanted this idea of this thing being alien, and we kind of approached it that way.
So you mentioned that going from the first cube into the second cube, you were basically asking the question, if we could go back in time and do it again, what would we do different? What were some of those things? Like, you've mentioned some, like having more of a narrative and stuff like that. Was there anything else you've added into this game that wasn't there originally?
Multiple environments, and Q.U.B.E. 1 was very room-based, wasn't it? So you'd in the same vein that, like, say, Portal was, for example, you have a puzzle room, you solve that puzzle room, and you move through a space, and you'd go through this kind of very linear kind of world, and obviously there was progression there, and you're exploring, but we're very much guiding that exploration, and we still do that in Q.U.B.E. 2. Because it is something people like, that clean idea of puzzle after puzzle after puzzle. But what we've tried to do is break those rooms up a little bit, so it's not just a room and then a room. We're kind of creating, I guess, more level-based structures in here, so you're kind of just navigating through like an ever continuously kind of moving kind of space. And probably, as you can see right now, we're moving through these large cavernous kind of spaces, and there's lots of puzzles in those spaces to move through the space. And we kind of have evolved that even further, so we have hub-based structures in Q.U.B.E. 2, where you will go into 2 very large kind of spaces, and you can tackle different areas of puzzles in different orders, depending upon kind of whether you're getting stuck on a puzzle or whether you're struggling with that one. Maybe you want to go off and explore a different area and learn a different mechanic, and it kind of will use a different part of your brain, so when you go back to those older puzzles, you can go, oh, I kind of get that now, and kind of play around with it. So we do that on like a macro way, where you've got these big hubs, and then like within the little we call them sectors, like these little sectors, you have tiny little like hubs as well that go off to different puzzles, and you've got to kind of manipulate this strange sentient like structure that you're in.
Oh, right, so the structure itself, like you say, kind of feels like there's something
going on there. Yeah, we won't say too much, but it's kind of doing things with your input, and then with that, it's kind of on its own. It seems to kind of be moving around and doing strange things. And it did that in Q.U.B.E. 1, and we didn't really ever explain what that was, because we wanted it to be quite mysterious. But in Q.U.B.E. 2, we might like touch upon some of those answers that lots of people ask us. So what was Q.U.B.E. 1? Well, we've never answered that question, so maybe we'll a little bit.
And I think a lot of that was to do with inexperience, because it was our first game, and budget constraints as well. So we were kind of making things up as we went along, but now we've had the ability to actually go in there and do it properly and do it justice. So, yeah.
Nice.
I think with this game, it's a slightly higher budgeted kind of project, so we can do. We are kind of working very hard on animations and kind of the way that we give feedback. This is still like an early alpha kind of video that's running, and actually we've done a big update this week. So I'm looking at this now and like what you can actually play at Res is the same kind of demo, but quite different at the moment. So yeah, so you can see all the fancier bits that we can kind of be putting in. Yeah.
Well, I guess the problem, I mean, when discussing a puzzle game, it's sort of all about figuring things out for yourself rather than...
It is. It's very hard to demo a puzzle game.
I can imagine, that's the thing, right?
We have people play for like an hour of this demo, and then people that can go through it in like 20 minutes. It's fascinating
kick them
to
off,
watch.
like, yeah.
Sorry mate, your time's up now. But people, as long as they arrive at that solution and then they feel like they figured it out in whatever way that was suitable for that person, because everyone thinks differently, right? We want them to feel like they've figured it out, that they are smart, and it doesn't matter if it took like 2 minutes or whether they took 10 minutes, you know. So we always tell people it doesn't matter how long you take to solve the puzzle, so.
As long as you enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, absolutely, as long as you enjoyed it and you're engaged in the experience.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks
here.
a lot.
Where can people online that are watching go to find out more about the game?
It's Q2game.com or on Twitter @Q.U.B.E.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you can come down to Rest if you're down and play it. So.
Yeah.
Or if you're here right now, which a bunch of you are, you can play it in here, I believe, right? It's like, no?
We're unfortunately not showcasing.
Well, that's ruined my whole segue into wrapping
Sorry,
up.
guys.
Thanks, Q.U.B.E. But you can play a whole bunch of other games right now. And that's a wrap for the showcase. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to the people at the London Games Festival putting this together. Thank you very much to Space Ape Games, who have also helped put this whole thing together, and to the lovely production crew over there, because nobody ever thanks the production crew, which is just rude, quite frankly, because they've done the whole thing. Never mind, it's just me. Anyway, you can go and have drinks for the people that are here, and you can play a whole bunch of the games, not all of them, turns out, but you can play... Sorry, I just had to. You can play a whole bunch of the games and you can enjoy them and have drinks, and we've also got the mobile roundtable going on as well. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of London Games Festival. There's a ton of stuff coming on. I think we're breaking a world record or something like that going on soon with a bunch of cosplayers. Hopefully, if you're a cosplayer, go down to London and do that. It sounds cool. Anyway, see you all very soon. Have a fun time, all the people in the room as well. Take care.